On the eve of our wedding, Gu Beichen secretly changed our marriage contract, replacing his name with his uncle Gu Huainan. His shocked friend yelled, "Are you crazy? What if this backfires? Lin Qingwan has waited 7 whole years for you. She spent 7 years waiting and is now an old maid." Gu Beichen just laughed carelessly. "I lost a bet to Ruan Ruan and agreed to do whatever she asked. Besides, it is just a marriage contract. Ruining Lin Qingwan's wedding is nothing new anyway. Her wedding has been ruined 10 times already, so one more won't hurt. Su Ruanruan was an orphan girl he rescued, now serving as his personal maid," he continued. "When she finds out about the mix-up, she will definitely come rushing back to beg me to change it. Even if she blindly enters the bridal chamber, my uncle is impotent anyway. In the end, Lin Qingwan will still be mine, and I will have a hold over him." His tone was careless and playful. The crowd burst into laughter while I stood frozen at the door. My heart grew colder with every word. I turned around and poured the hangover soup onto the ground. Later, when my mother anxiously brought the altered marriage contract to my room, I simply smiled and told her it was okay. Let us just proceed as it is written. This time I did not go to him to fix the name. On the day the Gu family came to formalize the proposal, Gu Beichen was busy taking Su Ruanruan out. I casually handed him my wedding invitation, but he casually tossed it aside. "I am not reading your apology letter. Once you bring over the hairpin Ruan wanted, then I will forgive you." I did not explain, only watching him leave with cold eyes. Later on, my actual wedding day, the usually high and mighty, aloof Gu Beichen broke into the estate like a madman, screaming, "I am the groom, I am clearly the groom." But back then my mother had asked me with tearful eyes, "Wan, are you sure we are not changing this contract? But that Gu Huainan is an impotent cripple." My mother's eyes grew red with worry. I felt a pang of guilt. Ever since she learned Gu Beichen had agreed to marry me, she had been the happiest person. She had watched me wait for Gu Beichen for 7 years, watching me fade from my prime year after year until I became the laughingstock of the capital, an old maid nobody wanted. On the day the Gu family brought the betrothal gifts, my mother wept all night. She then spent 30 sleepless nights embroidering a beautiful wedding gown for me. Yet now Gu Beichen had sent over this altered contract just to win a petty bet with his maid. At this moment, all I felt was an overwhelming, soul-deep exhaustion. Looking at the gold lettering on the red paper, I whispered, "In the end, he is still a member of the Gu family." I knew I could not be stubborn anymore. This was already the 10th time Gu Beichen broke his word to delay our wedding. The first time people in the capital spoke up for me, calling him heartless. The second time, noble ladies whispered, wondering if we had fought. But after it happened again and again, everyone decided I was the problem, calling me shameless and desperate. They said I was malicious and repulsive, which was why my childhood friend refused to marry me. When Gu Beichen broke his promise, the very first time I actually thought of finding someone else. But the moment the matchmakers saw it was me, they awkwardly pushed my gifts back. "Young Master Gu has already declared you are his. Who in the capital would dare cross him? Besides, my lady, given your reputation now, you really do not have any other options. I am afraid you can only marry into the Gu family." Tracing my finger over the name Gu Huainan, I knew I had finally let go of my painful past with Gu Beichen. I would be Madame Gujuste with a different husband. When old Madame Gu learned I was marrying Gu Huainan instead, she was shocked. But remembering that Huainan was her most beloved youngest son who had been bedridden with illness for years, she immediately agreed to the marriage. She even added extra betrothal gifts, which I heard Gu Huainan had personally requested. I looked down at my wrist. When I first received that jade bracelet, I was only 16. Gu Beichen had come to find me with a mysterious smile. He slipped the snow-white icy jade bracelet onto my hand. It was made of premium white jade and looked incredibly valuable. As I tried to pull it off, he gripped my wrist tightly. "This is the heirloom my mother kept for my future wife. Keep it." Under the dappled tree shadows, his smile was warmer than the sun. Later I learned this bracelet was an heirloom passed down through his mother's family. When Madame Gu found out he stole it, she beat him severely. But he stood his ground, claiming he would only marry me, so it made no difference when he gave it. In the blink of an eye, I had worn that bracelet for 7 years. It had slowly integrated into my life, just like him. Seeing my silence, Gu Beichen assumed I was unwilling. Before he could speak, Su Ruanruan clung tightly to his arm, whispering gently, "Maybe we should forget it. After all, sister has worn this bracelet for so many years." Gu Beichen immediately retorted, "No matter how long she wore it, it is still my family's property. I promised you could try it on, so I will get it." So he was demanding it back for Su Ruanruan. I understood completely. I slipped the jade bracelet off my wrist and handed it back to him. Gu Beichen froze, stunned by how easily I surrendered it. I shrugged and said, "You are right. This belongs to the Gu family anyway." I am not marrying you, so wearing it is indeed inappropriate. This made Gu Beichen look rather uncomfortable. Taking the bracelet, he muttered, "On our wedding day, I will personally put it back on you." Hearing this, Su Ruanruan's eyes flashed with envy. With jealousy. As he handed the bracelet to her and turned to leave, I called out, "Gu Beichen, since I have returned your family's heirloom, what about my family's double blessing jade pendant?" He stopped in his tracks, turning to look at me in utter disbelief. "You want me to return our engagement pendant? Lin Qingwan, are you trying to call off our wedding?" In that instant, I wanted to scream and ask who was the one actually ruining this marriage, but I desperately wanted to preserve my last shred of dignity. I refused to act like a resentful, desperate woman demanding answers. "I just think it is inappropriate for you to keep it," I replied calmly. He snorted in annoyance, ripping the pendant from his waist and throwing it at me. "This thing is old anyway. It is indeed time for a replacement." He grabbed Su Ruanruan's hand and walked away. I did not chase him. I only traced the crack on the Jediah deep scar left by a sword. Back then he treasured this pendant like a sacred relic, keeping it pressed against his chest. Until one day during a battle with bandits, a rogue arrow flew straight toward his heart. Everyone believed he would be gravely wounded or even lose his life. Yet he only stood there stunned, slowly pulling out the warm jade from his chest. It had blocked the arrow, saving his life. Later he knelt on the ground before me, whispering, "Wanwan, you are my lucky star. Without you, I would have died long ago. I will never fail you." We were once inseparable, but eventually even his words grew cold. He never called me Wanwan again, simply because Su Ruanruan complained about it. Saying our names sounded too similar, making her feel like a cheap replacement. From then on, Gu Beichen only addressed me by my formal name. My maid Xiaotao's worried voice suddenly pulled me out of my past memories. I handed the jade to her. "This is cracked. Go dispose of it." "But you spent so many nights carving this with your own hands," I only smiled softly. "It is useless now." After that day, Gu Beichen never came to find me again. But today, Gu Huainan spoke up. His voice was cold, completely unlike the gentle tone he used with me earlier, and a single sentence made Gu Beichen's face pale. Only then did I remember that before Gu Huainan was injured, he was a legendary war god, the absolute pillar of the Gu family. Clutching the invitation, Gu Beichen stammered, "I just did not want to trouble you, Uncle. Uncle Qingwan and I still have things to discuss. Could you give us some space?" Gu Huainan's gaze fell upon me. I hesitated for a moment and nodded. He then wheeled himself over to the nearby veranda. The distance was perfect, far enough that he could not overhear our conversation, yet close enough to see everything in the garden clearly. Gu Beichen frowned, clearly displeased, but he did not dare to throw a tantrum in front of his uncle. Instead, he locked his eyes onto me. The second he opened his mouth, he demanded accusingly, "Lin Qingwan, why on earth did you sell our engagement jade pendant?" That day, I had told Xiaotao to sell the cracked pendant cheaply at any pawn shop. I never expected it would somehow wind up back in Gu Beichen's hands. It was already broken, so naturally I had to dispose of it, I replied indifferently. "Fine, but you must give me a far better one in the future. I was only speaking casually that day, yet you actually sold it. Aren't you a bit too obedient? If I say I want Ruanruan to be my main wife, while you become a mere concubine, would you eagerly rush it to help me welcome her into our household?" I stared at him in sheer astonishment. It was my own choice to discard the pendant, yet he actually believed his casual words had forced my hand, leading him to spout such ridiculous nonsense. For a split second, his absurd self-confidence almost made me laugh out loud. Unwilling to cause any more scenes, I simply handed him my official wedding invitation. "If there is nothing else, I will head back." Delivering this invitation to him was merely a proper custom I had to fulfill for my future husband's family. But before I could finish speaking, Gu Beichen snatched the card, his attitude incredibly lazy. "I heard the wedding is set for 4 days from now. Tomorrow I am taking Ruanruan hunting in the suburbs, and I am not sure if we can make it back. Why don't you tell grandmother to delay it to the 5th day?" I stared at him utterly dumbfounded. Gu Beichen was acting completely bizarre today. He was the one who intentionally altered the marriage contract. Neither of us had brought it up since. Naturally, my wedding would proceed exactly as the document stated, and the man I was marrying was Gu Huainan. Yet it was like he had completely forgotten. Every word he spoke assumed I was desperate to marry him. I did not know if he was too arrogant or if he underestimated the rules. Perhaps my long silence made him sigh as if giving up. "I will try to make it back that day," he said, looking down at the wedding invitation. Suddenly a sweet voice cried, "Brother Beichen, Su Ranran threw herself into his arms like a bird, and he caught her by reflex. I have already packed up my wedding things, I said, as if only just noticing me, he let go in a panic. He toyed with the white jade bracelet in his hand while she whimpered, "Sister, please don't misunderstand. She wouldn't be that petty." Gu Baichen casually stuffed the wedding invitation into his wide sleeve, then stroked Su Ranruen's head. "She knows I only treat you as a sister. She won't mind." Su Ranruen's breath caught her teeth, clenching. She forced a smile. "Sister, you're so generous. I thought anyone facing this would he looked a complete mess. Seeing me in my wedding dress." Gu Baichen immediately barked, "Lin Xinhuan, have you no shame? Just because I was a little late, you actually married some random man." The crowd stared at him with bizarre expressions. Everyone here knew today was my wedding to Gu Huainan. As Huainan's nephew, he was supposed to respectfully call me aunt, but perhaps he was just too furious to notice any of it. His face was filled with utter disdain. "Let me tell you, I was late on purpose today to leave you hanging. If you behave, I will still let you marry into the Gu family." "Uncle, you too, he is just fooling around. Why are you playing along, Lin Xinhuan? What are you waiting for? Get over here and help me change into my suit." The grand hall fell dead silent. The guests stared at each other in shock. Up on the stage, old Madame Gu looked livid. Her eyes turned bloodshot as she glared at Gu Baichen, slammed her hand onto the mahogany chair and roared, "You absolute menace, what on earth are you talking about? Today is your youngest uncle's big wedding day. There's no room for your madness here. Guards, drag him away." Gu Baichen froze, his eyes filled with utter disbelief. "My uncle's wedding day. How can that be? This was supposed to be mine and Lin Xinhuan's wedding." Several servants pinned Gu Baichen down by his shoulders. Blood from his forehead seeped down his cheek, dripping onto his luxurious brocade robe and blossoming into stark crimson stains. He froze for a second, seemingly unable to believe his own ears. Those eyes, once so lazily indifferent, were now wide with shock and disbelief, staring dead at old Madame Gu onto the high platform. Seeing them about to drag him out, he suddenly began to struggle frantically. He threw off the servants with such raw force that they stumbled backward. Pointing at me, his voice cracked with a desperate, crazed madness. "Impossible! But she's my Lin Xinhuan. She is clearly my wife. We were childhood sweethearts, betrothed since we were kids. My father and mother approved of us when they were alive. Everyone in the capital knows it. How could she marry my uncle? This has to be a mistake. You're all scheming to trick me." He stumbled toward old Madame Gu. His knees crashed heavily onto the cold stone floor with a dull thud. The wound on his forehead split open, fresh blood pouring down and covering half his face, making him look wretched and wild. "Grandmother, you love me most. Please tell them this marriage certificate is fake. It was Lin Xinhuan. She shamelessly wanted to cling to my uncle and altered it on purpose. Make them get away from her so we can perform our vows." Old Madame Gu shook with rage, her chest heaving as her trembling finger pointed at Gu Baichen. Taking a deep breath to suppress her fury, she spoke in a voice as cold as ice. "You worthless wretch. Are you still going to spout such nonsense? You were the one who altered the marriage contract. Do you think I do not know? You gambled your own marriage for a maid, ruined Xinhuan's reputation, and now you dare to ruin this wedding hall and disrespect your own aunt? Do you have any decency left as a son of the Gu family?" I altered it. Gu Baichen froze. His eyes flickered as if remembering something, yet he still stubbornly refused to admit it. "Grandmother, you wrong me. I would never do this. It must be Lin Xinhuan. She set me up because she did not want to marry me." I spoke up, my voice calm but commanding. "How could we mistake it?" As I spoke, Xiaotao stepped forward with a red sandalwood tray. On it lay the red and gold marriage certificate, carefully wrapped in transparent silk. She respectfully presented the document to everyone, showing it to all the guests. "This contract clearly bears my lady's name and Master Gu Huainan's. It has the Gu family seal and the Emperor's imperial registry number. It cannot be fake." I then added, "Lately, the wedding invitations I sent out also bore our names. Every prominent family in the capital received one, so there is no mistake. Gu Baichen, you deliberately altered the contract and stayed hidden instead of correcting it. Now that Huainan and I are marrying you, barge in to make a scene. Who is truly shameless, it is perfectly clear." Hearing my words, the attending guests chimed in, their hushed whispers rising and falling like a surging tide towards Gu Baichen. "That is right, our family did receive the wedding invitation from Miss Lin and Master Gu Huainan. It was written so clearly. How could it have been with Gu Baichen? I got one too. Besides, Gu Huainan was the one who personally ran around handling everything. He selected the wedding fabrics at the silk shop, chose the cosmetics for Miss Lin, and even supervised and finalized the bridal chamber decorations. Who would be this devoted if she were not his bride? Exactly where has Gu Baichen been? I heard he took his maid Su Ruan hunting in the suburbs, completely ignoring his own fiance's wedding. He did not act like a groom at all, yet he dares to barge in now. What an absolute embarrassment. Gu Beichen got what he deserved. Miss Lin waited 7 years for him, only for him to break his word, repeatedly. Now that she is marrying someone else, he actually panics. What took him so long, the crowd gossiped, their voices dripping with contempt. Every single word was like a needle stabbing deep into Gu Beichen's heart. He had wanted to control me, so he intentionally took Su Ruan away and delayed his return until the wedding hour. He wanted me to panic and beg him, but he never expected this would make him the target of public scorn. Over the years, the capital watched his antics. At first, people defended me and condemned his heartless nature. But as it kept happening, they saw his true colors. A few thought he was clever for keeping me wrapped around his finger, but most despised his actions, believing he did not deserve to have a woman as devoted as me. Gu Beichen's face turned pale and red, looking incredibly unsightly. He clenched his fists so hard his nails dug deep into his palms, leaving bloody marks, yet he still refused to let go. His eyes locked onto me, filled with pleading resentment and a panic he did not even realize. Gritting his teeth, he demanded, "Lin Xinwan, are you really marrying a cripple out of spite? He cannot even stand up. He can never give you happiness. It is not too late to turn back. Just say the word, and I will pretend none of this happened. We can go back to how we were. I will marry you, make you the rightful Mrs. Gu." He paused, then added, "You and him. We have only bowed twice. You have not entered the bridal chamber yet. It is not official. It is not too late to back out. Once you do, you will never have a chance to regret it. Think about our 7 years together. Can you really just throw it all away?" I looked at him coldly, my eyes completely flat, and simply ordered the servants nearby to take him away so we would not miss the auspicious hour. The last trace of color drained from Gu Beichen's face. His lips trembled as he tried to speak, but he could not make a sound. Just as the servants prepared to drag him out again, he suddenly remembered something, and a wild, frantic look flashed in his eyes as he violently broke free from the servants and screamed, "You cannot marry my uncle. He is an impotent invalid. Marrying him means you will never have happiness. You will only be a living widow. Lin Xinwan, wake up." A dead silence suddenly fell over the wedding hall, shattered by an angry shout. Old Madame Gu could no longer hold back. She snatched a Celadon teacup and threw it straight at Gu Beichen. It flew through the air with a whistle, striking his temple with a heavy thud and shattering instantly, showering him in sharp fragments. Bright red blood trickled down his sharp features, blurring his vision with crimson, yet he did not even raise a hand to wipe it away. He seemed completely numb to the pain, staring intently at me with obsessive madness. Word by word, he cried, "Everything I said is true. Ever since my uncle was injured, he has been impotent. This is the Gu family open secret. Everyone is just too embarrassed to speak of it openly. If you marry him, you are jumping into a fiery pit. I cannot watch your entire life get ruined because of me." My heart trembled. I realized Gu Beichen had truly lost his mind. Ever since Gu Huainan was injured, he had been bedridden, relying entirely on a wheelchair to move. Though rumors of his impotence occasionally circulated, they were just whispers. No one dared mention them openly. After all, Gu Huainan was once Great Shi, highly renowned god of war, who had achieved legendary victories for the empire. The Gus were an illustrious clan. If verified, this rumor would ruin his reputation and make the entire family a laughingstock. Yet today, Gu Beichen, Gu Huainan's own nephew, exposed this massive secret before all the guests. This was a direct slap in the face to the Gus, to Gu Huainan, and to me. Within half a day, this scandalous news would spread across the entire capital. By then, not just Gu Huainan and his family, but even I and the Lin family would become targets of gossip and mockery. Everyone in the hall fell utterly silent, too terrified to even draw a loud breath. The guests exchanged glances, their eyes filled with shock and malicious amusement. They never expected this grand wedding to descend into such a farce. Taking a deep breath, I suppressed the rising fury and humiliation, slowly walking over to Gu Beichen. A spark of hope flashed in his eyes, thinking he had swayed me and that I would run away with him. But next second, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. The sharp slap echoed through the silent hall. I did not hold back at all, pouring all my strength into the blow. 5 bright red finger marks instantly welled up on his left cheek, burning hot against his pale skin. Gu Beichen's pupils shrank in shock. He stood there completely stunned, staring at me in utter disbelief, as if he never expected that on the eve of our wedding, Gu Beichen had secretly altered our marriage certificate, changing the groom name to his uncle Gu Huainan. His friend had gasped in shock. "Are you crazy? What if this backfires?" She waited 7 years and wasted her youth for Gu Baichen? Only laughed carelessly. I lost a bet with Ruan Ruan and promised to do this. It is just changing a name on a paper. Besides, her marriage plans have been ruined so many times already. Another time will not hurt. Su Ruan was just an orphan girl he took in, now serving as his maid. Once she realizes, she will frantically beg me to change it back. Even if she goes through with it, my uncle is impotent. She will still end up mine, and I will have leverage over her. His tone was careless, and his friends laughed. I stood at the door for a long time, my heart slowly turning to ice. Finally, I turned and poured out the soup. Later, when my mother rushed to me in a panic with the wrong certificate, I only smiled and said, "It is fine. Let us proceed with this." This time I did not ask him to fix it. When we finalized the proposal, it happened to be the day he was taking Su Ruan out. I handed him my wedding invitation, but he threw it aside, saying, "I am not reading your apology. When you bring the hairpin Ruan wants, I will forgive you." I did not explain, only watching him leave. Later on my wedding day, the usually aloof and arrogant Gu Baishan frantically forced his way inside, screaming, "I am the groom." I was supposed to be the groom, Wanwan. "Are you sure you will not change this?" But Gu Huainan is an impotent cripple. My mother's eyes welled with tears, and my heart felt guilty. Knowing Gu Baichen finally agreed to marry me had made my mother incredibly happy. She watched me wait 7 years, going from the prime of my youth to my withered years, year after year, becoming a mocked, unwanted old maid in the capital. The night the Gus brought the betrothal gifts, she wept until dawn. She spent 30 nights embroidering my wedding gown, yet now Gu Baishan, for a stupid bet with his maid, sent us the wrong certificate. I felt only deep exhaustion. Looking at the gold letters on red paper, I whispered, "It is fine. They are all Gus. I cannot be reckless anymore." This was the 10th time Gu Baichen broke his promise and postponed our wedding. The first time, people defended me and called him unfaithful. The second time, the noble ladies whispered, wondering if we had issues. Eventually, everyone believed the fault was mine, calling me shameless, bitter, and malicious, claiming that was why my childhood sweetheart refused to marry me. When he first broke his word, I tried to find someone else, but matchmakers awkwardly rejected my gifts, saying young Master Gu claimed you as his. No one in the capital dares cross him. Besides, with your reputation, you can only marry into the Gu family. My slender finger traced the name of Gu Huainan. I knew I had finally let go of Gu Baichen to become Madame Gu, even if it was a different Gu. When old Madame Gu learned I wanted to marry Gu Huainan, she was shocked. But remembering him, her beloved youngest son who had been sick for years, she agreed immediately and added generous gifts. I heard Gu Huainan personally added to them. In my memory, when I received that bracelet, I was only 16. On that sunny day, Gu Baichen came to me mysteriously and slipped the jade bracelet onto my wrist. It was icy snow white, made of top-grade white jade, and clearly priceless. I tried to take it off, but he gripped my wrist tightly, saying, "This is my mother heirloom for my future wife. Keep it." Under the dappled shadows, his smile outshone the sun. Only later did I learn the bracelet was an heirloom from his mother family. When Madame Gu found out he stole it, she had him severely beaten, but he proudly declared he would marry no one but me anyway. Just like that, I wore the bracelet for 7 years. Like him, it had slowly integrated into my life. Seeing me silent, Gu Baichen thought I refused. Before he could speak, Su Ruan grabbed his arm and murmured, "Maybe we should forget it." Sister Jingwan has worn it for so long. He immediately snapped back. "No matter how long she wore it, it is ours." I said, "You can try it, and you will." So he wanted it back for her. Realizing this, I calmly slid the jade bracelet off and handed it to him. Gu Baichen froze, clearly not expecting me to surrender it so easily, his face filled with suspicion. I only smiled. "You are right. This belongs to your family. Since I did not marry you, it is inappropriate to wear it." Gu Baichen looked uneasy as he took it. "On our wedding day, I will put it on you myself." Seeing Su Ruan's jealous look as Gu Baichen handed her the bracelet to leave, I called out, "Gu Baichen, since I returned your bracelet, where is my family's heirloom jade pendant?" He froze, staring in disbelief. "You want your token back? Lin Xinwan, are you calling off the wedding?" In that moment, I almost screamed the question back at him, who was really ruining this marriage, but I wanted to keep my dignity, not play the bitter nagging wife. I simply said, "I just feel it is no longer appropriate for you to keep it." He scoffed, ripping the pendant from his waist and tossing it to me. "This thing is cracked anyway. Time for an upgrade." Holding Su Ruan's hand, he turned and walked away. I did not chase him. I just gently traced the crack on the Judea scar from a blade. Years ago, he cherished it so much he kept it close to his chest. Then during a bandit raid, an arrow flew straight toward his heart. Everyone thought he was a dead man. But after a stunned silence, he slowly pulled the jade pendant from his robe, still warm with his body heat. That pendant had blocked the arrow saving his life. Later he knelt before me, promising Wanwan, you are my lucky star. I would be dead without you. I will never fail you. Back then we were so close. But later, even his words grew cold. He never called me Wanwan again, all because Su Ranruan complained our names sounded too similar, making her feel like a cheap substitute. So from then on, Gu Beichen called me strictly by my full name. Miss, my maid Xiao Tao's worried voice snapped me back to reality. I handed her the jade. It is broken. Throw it away. But miss, you stayed up nights carving this with your own hands. I just smiled. It was useless now. After that, Gu Beichen never came looking for me. His voice was cold, unlike his gentle tone with me, and with just one sentence, he made Gu Beichen's face pale. Only then did I remember that, before his injury, Gu Huainan was a legendary god of war, the pillar of the Gu family. Gu Beichen clutched the card, stammering, I only didn't want to trouble Uncle. Uncle Xinwan and I have things to discuss. Could you, Gu Huainan, looked at me? I hesitated, then nodded. He silently wheeled his chair to the veranda. It was the perfect distance, too, far to overhear us, but close enough to watch our every move. Gu Beichen frowned in annoyance, but dared not complain, turning his sharp gaze back to me. He immediately demanded, Lin Xinwan, why did you sell our token of love? I had told Xiao Tao to sell that cracked jade at any cheap pawn shop, never dreaming it would find its way back to him. It was broken, so of course I got rid of it, I replied casually. He scoffed. Fine, but you better buy me a better one later. Still, I only said that in passing, and you actually sold it. You are far too obedient. If I decided to make Ruan my wife and keep you as a concubine, would you rush to prepare the bridal chamber for her yourself? I stared at him. I discarded the jade because I was done with him, yet he truly believed his offhand comment drove my actions, fueling this delusional arrogance. I almost laughed at his sheer confidence. But wanting no drama, I simply handed him my wedding invitation. If there is nothing else, I will go home. Traditional etiquette demanded I deliver it, so I had to give him one. But before I could finish, he snatched the card with a lazy shrug. 4 days from now, I am taking Ruan hunting tomorrow. Not sure if I can make it back in time. Why don't you tell grandmother to delay the wedding by a day? I stared at him, completely baffled. He was the one who deliberately sabotaged our marriage certificate, yet neither of us had mentioned it. My wedding would proceed as officially written, and my groom was Gu Huainan. Yet he seemed to have completely forgotten his stunt, assuming I was still begging to marry him. Was he blind or just arrogant? Maybe he underestimated our traditions. Seeing my silence, he sighed, as if throwing me a bone. Fine, I will try to make it. He looked down to open the card, but a high-pitched voice interrupted. Brother Chensu Ranruan threw herself into his arms. He caught her instinctively. My things are all packed, she cheered, then flinched away as if she had only just noticed me standing there. Fiddling with her new jade bracelet, she stammered, Sister Xinwan, please, do not misunderstand I. She is not that petty. Gu Beichen scoffed carelessly, stuffing my invitation into his sleeve. He patted her head, saying, She knows you are like a sister. She won't mind. Su Ranrun stiffened, biting her lip before forcing a fake smile. I hope sister is truly that generous. I thought anyone in love would be jealous. Fast forward to the wedding. Arriving disheveled and seeing my bridal gown, Gu Beichen roared, I ask you one last time. Just because I was a little late, you actually went and married some random man. The guests stared at him like he was crazy, knowing today was my grand wedding to Gu Huainan. As his junior, he was supposed to respectfully call me aunt. But blinded by fury, he was completely oblivious, shouting with absolute disdain, I arrived late on purpose to teach you a lesson. If you behave, I might still let you marry into my family. Uncle, why play along with her tantrum? Lin Xinwan, stop standing there. Get over here and help me change. Dead silence gripped the hall. The guests exchanged stunned looks. At the head of the room, old Madame Gu's face turned livid. Staring at Gu Beichen, she slammed her mahogany chair. You vile creature, what nonsense are you spewing? Today is your uncle's wedding day. I will not have you raging here. Guards, drag him out. Gu Beichen stood frozen, his eyes filled with utter disbelief. Uncle's wedding. How this is supposed to be my wedding? With Lin Xinwan. Servants rushed forward, pinning him down as blood from his forehead dripped down his cheek onto his expensive robes, staining them a gruesome red. He froze, unable to comprehend the words. The arrogance in his eyes vanished, replaced by sheer shock and horror as he stared at old Madame Gu. Seeing the guards pulling him away, he suddenly lost control, thrashing violently. He flung the servants off with such brute force that they stumbled backward, stumbling back several steps. Pointing a trembling finger at me, he shrieked with manic fury, No, this is impossible. Lin Xinwan is my wife. We grew up together, betrothed since childhood. Our parents blessed this union. Everyone in the capital knows, how could she marry Uncle like... This must be a mistake, you are all lying to me. He stumbled toward grandmother, throwing himself onto his knees. They hit the cold tile with a heavy thud, splitting his wound open again as blood covered half his face, making him look utterly crazed. Grandmother, you love me most. Tell them this certificate is fake. Lin Xinhuan is a shameless opportunist who wanted to climb to Uncle, so she changed the names. Get her away from him. I am the one she is marrying. Old Madame Gu trembled with rage, her chest heaving as her finger pointed at him. She took a deep breath, fighting down her fury. Her voice was bone-chillingly cold. You miserable wretch, how dare you continue spewing lies? You changed the marriage certificate yourself. Did you think I wouldn't know? You risked your own wedding for a maid, treating Xinhuan's reputation like a game. Now you barge in, ruining the ceremony and insulting your own aunt. Do you have any decency left as a son of the Gu family? Gu Beichen froze. His eyes flickered as memory struck, but he stubbornly refused to confess. Grandmother, you wrong me. I would never do that. It was Lin Xinhuan. She didn't want to marry me, so she framed me. I stepped forward, my voice cold, calm, and laced with absolute authority. How could there be a mistake? Just then Xiao Tao brought out a sandalwood tray. On the wooden tray, our wedding contract was carefully wrapped in sheer silk. He held it up respectfully, showing it to all the guests. But look closely. The names written on this document are clearly my lady's and Master Gu Huainan's, stamped with the Gu family seal. And this imperial decree has His Majesty's own seal. The registration number cannot be faked, I added. Our wedding invitations went to everyone of status in the capital. There is no mistake. Gu Beichen, you altered the contract, but never showed up to correct it. Now that Huainan and I are marrying, you crashed the ceremony. Who is truly shameless. The guests began to murmur their whispers, rising like a tide against Gu Beichen. That is right. A few days ago, we did receive the invitation for Lady Lin and Master Gu Huainan. The names were written so clearly, why would it be Gu Beichen? I got one too. Besides, lately, the wedding preparations were all handled by Master Huainan himself. He personally ran around, choosing the silks and even visited the cosmetics shop to pick out the finest rouge for Lady Lin. He even finalized the bridal chamber's layout. Who would care this much if she wasn't his bride? Exactly. Where was Gu Beichen all this time? I heard he was out hunting near the capital with that maid, Su Ruan, completely ignoring his own fiance's wedding. He did not care at all. Is that how a groom behaves? Now he has the nerve to crash this and make a scene. What an embarrassment he brought this on himself. Lady Lin waited for him for 7 years, and he broke his promise time and again. Now that she is marrying someone else, he panics. Their mocking voices filled the room. Every word was like a sharp needle stabbing deep into Gu Beichen's heart. He had done all of this on purpose to manipulate me. Taking Su Ranruan out of town and delaying his return until the auspicious hour was meant to make me beg him. He never expected to become the target of public condemnation instead. Everyone in the capital has watched his behavior for years. At first, people defended me and called him heartless, but over time they saw his true colors. Some thought him clever for playing me so easily, but most despised his actions. They knew he did not deserve a devoted woman like me. Gu Beichen's face turned pale. His fists clenched so hard that his nails drew blood from his palms, yet he refused to give up. His eyes locked onto me, filled with pleading and resentment. There was a trace of panic he did not even realize was there. Gritting his teeth, he demanded, Lin Xinhuan, are you really doing this just because of a petty grudge? Marrying a cripple who cannot even stand up, he cannot give you happiness. It is not too late to turn back. Just say the word. I will still marry you and make you my rightful wife. He paused, then rushed to add, you only bowed twice with him. The ceremony is not finished yet. Once you enter the bridal chamber, there is no turning back. Think about it, 7 years of love. Can you really throw it all away? I stared at him coldly. I turned to the servants and ordered, take him away. Don't let him delay the ceremony. The last bit of color drained from his face as his lips trembled. Just as the servants went to drag him out again, something seemed to click in his mind, and a flash of pure madness ignited in his eyes. Wrenching himself free from the guards, he screamed, you cannot marry him. My uncle is a crippled, impotent, useless man. You will never find happiness with him. You will only be a widow in an empty bed. Wake up, Xinhuan. You beast, a voice bellowed through the silent hall. Old Madame Gu, unable to take it, hurled her teacup. The Celadon cup flew with fierce speed, striking Gu Beichen squarely on the forehead. It shattered with a sharp crack, spraying shards over him as blood began to trickle down. The crimson blood blurred his vision, but he did not even wipe it away. Feeling no pain, he just stared at me with mad obsession, repeating his words slowly. I am telling the truth. My uncle has been impotent ever since his injury. It is an open secret in the Gu family, but everyone keeps quiet to save face. Marrying him is jumping into a fire pit. I cannot watch your entire life be ruined because of me. At his words, my heart shuddered. I realized Gu Beichen had truly gone mad. Ever since his injury, Gu Huainan had been bedridden and bound to a wheelchair. Though rumors of his impotence existed, no one dared speak of them openly. He was once the legendary god of war, who fought valiantly for our empire. With the Gu family being so prominent, such rumors would not only ruin his reputation, but make the family a laughingstock. Yet today his own nephew exposed this massive secret in front of all these guests. This was a direct blow to the Gu family, Gu Huainan and me. By tomorrow, the scandal would spread across the capital, and we would all become the city's favorite gossip, constantly pointed and whispered at. Inside the hall, a heavy silence fell. No one dared to breathe. The guests exchanged shocked glances, thrilled by the sudden scandal unfolding before them. I took a deep breath, suppressing my anger and humiliation as I walked up to Gu Beichen. A flicker of hope crossed his face, as if he thought he'd won me back. He expected me to regret everything and leave with him. Instead, I raised my hand and slapped him hard. The sharp crack echoed loudly in the silent hall. I put every ounce of my strength into it. A bright red handprint flared on his left cheek, burning with pain. His pupils shrank, completely stunned. He stared at me in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend what I had just done.